Hey there, it's Laura here from makingcardsisfun.com and welcome to another Saturday STEM Day carding video. In this week's video, I'll be creating a fun wreath with the Playful Pup stamp set from Mama Elephant. So I'm starting out with that stamp set and I'm just going to pick out a couple of stamps from the set and I'll be stamping these onto some Copic-friendly cardstock with my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. So I decided to use this little puppy over there with the envelope, and then I'm also stamping the bowl of food. So for this pup, I am using the E53 marker to add some shading. So I like to start out with my darkest marker to add my shading. And then I like to move on to my lightest color, which is E50. And I'm using that to blend out that darkest color. So I did the same thing for the bottom portion of this puppy, but I thought it needed a little bit of shading. So as you can see, I'm going back in with the E53 just to add some more interest to this puppy, and then I'm using E50 to blend it all out. So for the rest of the dog, so for the ears and for the snout, I'm using just the E50 marker and I'm adding some dots with the E53. And then for the inside of the ears, I'm actually using the E0000 marker, and I'm going to add some R11 to that just to add a tiny little bit of shading here and there. So I'm not using any difficult techniques for this coloring, just doing some really basic Copic coloring. So for the heart, I used R24 and R43 to blend it out. So R24 was my darkest color. I didn't capture that on camera, so that's why I'm showing these colors in slow motion. For the dog's color, I'm using the Y13 marker to add some shading, and I'm blending that out with the Y00 marker, which is a super light yellow. Going to add some extra shading, so I'm going back in with the Y13 marker. And then for those little dots, I'm using the R43 marker, so that matches with the little hearts. Then for the bowl, I totally forgot to zoom in, so I hope that you can see this coloring. But I used the Y13 marker to add my shading and blending that out with the Y00 marker, so it's just really easy like that. Then for the actual food, I'm using the E57 marker to add my shading, and then I am blending that out with the E55 marker. I really like how these colors blend so easily together. So I'm just going back in with that darkest color just to add some extra layer of shading, but you could skip that step. I just like to add my shading until I'm really happy with the result. Then for the little bone on this bowl, I am using BG11 to add some shading, and I'm blending that out with the BG10 marker. So next I'm going to be stamping all of these little bones from the Playful Pup stamp set, because I'll be creating a fun little wreath with some unexpected stamps. So I'm using these bones, and I'm also going to stamp the little tennis ball with some different ink colors. I'm using the apricot ink from Simon's Stamp, and I'm also going to bring in some pink with the soft garnet ink from the Tom. So I'm just going to stamp these onto some white cardstock, and after I did that, I'm going to color all of these little bones with some yellow markers. I'm using the Y13 marker to add my shading, and then I'm going to blend that out with the Y00 marker. I really like to use these two colors together. I just love to add yellow touches to my cards because I think that yellow is such a happy color, and I also like to combine it with like corals and soft pink colors, so definitely one of my favorite colors to use on cards. So I'll be using all of the coordinating dies to die cut all of these images. It took me a while since I die cut so many shapes. And then I'll be creating my own colored cardstock with the R43 Copic marker. So I've been using this, or I've been doing this technique actually a lot lately just because it's so much fun. So before I'll be heat embossing a sentiment, I'm just going to make sure that that ink is completely dry. So I use my heat tool to make sure that the ink is dry, And then I'm also going to use some kitchen flour to make sure that my embossing powder won't stick everywhere. So I'm using some regular kitchen flour, but you can use an embossing buddy or you can use a powder tool from Martha Stewart. I'm stamping a sentiment from the Playful Pups stamp set from Mama Elephant with my Wow Ultra Sticky ink pad. And then I'm going to sprinkle on the white embossing powder from Wow. And as you can see, the powder doesn't stick anywhere. So that's just because we used that kitchen flour and because we made sure that this ink was completely dry. So after I sprinkle on the powder, it's time to heat set the sentiment. And then I'm going to cut a fun V-shaped banner out of this piece. So I'm using my Fiskars SureCut to make sure I have a straight little banner. And then I can use my EK Success Cutter Bee scissors to cut a fun V-shaped banner. You could totally skip this step, but I just like the look of it. So I'll be doing some die cutting now. I die cut a circle out of some white cardstock, and I'm also going to be die cutting a frame with the Catherine die cuts from Winnie and Walter. As I mentioned before, I'm creating a wreath with all of these stamped things, so with the tennis balls and with the little bones. So I'm just going to adhere all of those little tennis balls with the Tombow Mono multi glue first, because I want all of the bones to be on top, so I want these to stand out the most. So as you can see, I'm now positioning and adhering those little bones with my EK Success tweezers and with the Tombow Mono multi glue. Also going to be adhering the sentiments to this white piece of cardstock with some foam adhesive, and then it's time to really start building this card. So I adhered this piece onto a Hero Arts note card with some foam adhesive, and I'm going to add 2 layers of foam adhesive to the little bowl of food, and then I can easily adhere that over there. Then I used only 1 foam square, so only 1 layer of foam to adhere the dog. So I'm positioning that, and I think that looks just so adorable. Going to add a little bit of sparkle to that bone with my Clear Wink of Stella glitter pen, and then I'm adding some more shine to this project with my Ranger Glossy Accents bottle. So I'm just adding a little bit of extra shimmer here and there. And then finally, I'm going to finish off this project with some sequins from the Ton. I'm using the glass slipper sequins, and I'm also using some colored sequins from the Fruit Sorbet sequin mix from Lucy's cards. So that's it for this week's Saturday Stem Day carding video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back next week. See you then. Bye bye!